Okay, so today we're doing boats.
I thought you were doing food illustrations. I'm sorry, that's next month.
Next
Both.
month.
Heaven help us. Yeah, okay.
Okay, and so in case I forget, next Tuesday, we won't have class because I'm out of town the whole week. So we will start food illustration from the 12th. But we will have, there are some videos on food illustration that I will share with you. So at least you can go through some of the previous classes and at least do some time pass on Tuesday. Don't waste this time doing anything else.
Aditi, did you get a chance to upload last week's video?
I think I have, but I'll have a look again. Let me see.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so in a picture like this, we are going to illustrate only the boat and the reflection in water. Maybe a little bit of the water to give context. So I've looked for some nice boats which have got an interesting reflection. This is also a very odd topic, but it turns out very beautiful if it's done right. But there's no subject that requires us to make boats unless we choose. So this was just because we're doing water and water related. I thought extending it a little further, we'll do boats as well. So
I started working. Sorry.
Go on.
I started working on the description of the backwaters and the boat in Kerala.
Okay.
You remember I shared the description of the book, of an excerpt from that book.
Right, right.
So I started working on that, and that has a boat in it. So I felt I needed this class today.
Perfect. How nice.
Yeah, painting that.
Good. Very nice. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a few of the peculiarities when you're drawing boats, and so that you can keep. Oh, sorry, I did something wrong. Yeah, so a few things that you need to keep in mind when you are drawing boats. Each boat that I have shown has got a different look. Now, these two, this and this, are looking sideways. And then you have a boat that looks full frontal, and then you have a boat that you can see from the top. Invariably, what happens for boats like these is we'll end up seeing that boat a lot differently in our head than it actually exists. So you will find yourself making a line that's much longer. And then you wonder, why is my boat looking like it's flying when it should be flat? So notice how flat this oval shape is. Do not look at it as a boat at all. If I were to draw an oval, what shape does it make? And then you have these lines, which are probably supports within that boat or canoe. And then you will have a tip over here. And each little nuance of the line makes a difference. So gentle curve in the front will make it look more like a boat. And if you make it straight, it'll look something else. It'll look more like a seed cover. There's hajar things that happen. So look at those little lines for cues. Okay. Then over here, again, the same thing happens. Proportions go for a toss. Here again, you might be tempted to draw something similar, where instead of, this is a straight line, and then it goes down. But if you're drawing it on blank paper, you could easily be drawing something like this. So keep an eye on how the line goes and whether it is coming straight or down or up, horizontal, vertical, 3 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever. Use those references in your head constantly to get this. Oh, sorry. So we are going to make the first, I think we can make the first illustration. The second one is easier. Okay, let's try making this one first. And if this one turns out okay, then you can make the others. Okay, so this is the one I'm making, the one that's facing in the front. So a few things that I will look out for. Size of the boat. Here is, suppose I make a square. It's not even a square, it's a rectangle. Okay, if we make a square like this, it's easier to make squares. And then you will draw a center. So I'm here basically just making a grid. And on the grid, then I will make extra lines. Like I'll make, this line is about a quarter of the right half. You know? And then we'll have half of the bottom horizontally cut. So all these are going to give us cues for where to turn the line and how far we can go. The boat comes about till here. Okay, so I'm going to make a screenshot of this and I can share it with you. We're going to ignore the boat in the back. Okay. I've shared the picture on the group. So we can start drawing the boat on the right side and use the left for testing colors, shapes, combinations, washes, whatever. Now, even though we made a grid that requires a full square, your boat doesn't require it. So I would recommend doing something like this. Now I'm going to make the boat somewhere over here. I'm ignoring the backdrop, which has got a skyline, some mountains, a boat in the back, because I want to focus only on the boat and the reflection. So my square is going to be slightly higher. I don't really need the top line of the square, so I'm not even going to bother making it. The thing with guidelines is only make the lines that you really need, and only in the places that you really need them. Like I need to know these sections. One, dividing the right half into 4. I'm deliberately drawing very light. Here again, half, half, and half. So this is the center line. The right of center is where the boat begins at just about half point. There's something protruding on top, and then the line goes somewhere like that. Then you have the sides come down, and then they come down a certain amount, which also you can measure. Now, by now, I think you would be able to. And at any point that you don't see the design properly, look at the original image. So at every point, keep checking that your shapes are accurate. Now, my shape has become rather bulbous, but I'm going to make these extra lines which are part of the design. And then I notice that this goes outward slightly more and becomes more flatter and ends slightly higher. Or at least it looks like that because there's a dark brown patch at the base of the boat. This is it, the shape, getting this shape right. Also, this is much straighter. So the teeniest of line changes will make your boat look convincingly as a boat or something else. Now, over here at about half level, there is this cubicle-like structure on the left of the front. Now, if it's an extremely ugly feature, we can omit it also completely. I think I'm just going to omit it. It's not looking nice at all. Why bother? All right, now just above this part, the boat ends if I don't draw anything else. And then there's a line that goes behind this section. And there's a little bit of thickness that it's shown. And there's some kind of a barrel here, which I just want to make for authenticity. Remove all these straight lines, straight guidelines. Now the barrel is slightly tilted. So I have to maintain that tilt. Otherwise, again, it won't look convincing. Now, when we draw the reflection in water, here's where the fun begins. So we need to draw a slightly amorphous shape. It's very important to get the right colors and shapes here for the water. So I'm making a slightly flattened edge, but an expanded shape that is going to look a little bit like a distortion of the shape of the boat. So here is where understanding study of silhouettes counts. If you notice, you can see the shape of the dark shadow underneath or just on the surface of the water. And then you have some extra shapes here. And then you also have some shapes that are negative somewhere in between. They're all like oval shapes. And here along the side, you have another shape, which is a lighter color. That kind of comes around and consolidates with the smaller shape or ends of the smaller shape. Now in painting, we are going to paint a little around the boat. So it should look like the boat is in water, and then we are going to paint this water. Okay, has everyone finished the drawing? Shall we start painting? Or do you need a few minutes?
Aditi, is this shape okay? It's small, but just have a look.
Sorry, what was that?
My boat, is the shape okay before I paint it?
Can you change the setting? It's blurring. The part, okay, so this part that you've made here, this part, it's come a little low. So make this line, it's become a little more steep, make it a little shallower. So that will reduce the amount of the boat that we see in the back. Then it should present itself better. Now here we have a quandary. Our boat is yellow and red and the water is blue. But it's a very light blue to start with on the top. So a wash, if needed, can be done before or after. I prefer to do washes before, especially the lighter color washes, because even if there's a yellow involved, simply because the brush moves much faster, much freely with that. So if you want to match the color of the water, we can make a mix of cerulean blue and a little bit of maybe lemon yellow or gamboge, because the waters look very Mediterranean. So as much as the Mediterranean is supposed to be blue, it also sometimes has a nice greenish, clean green aqua hue. So we can have cerulean. I'm mixing cerulean, and there was an existing blue in my palette. And to that, I'm adding a little bit of lemon yellow. But I have to make sure that this does not make the blue too jatak. It has to still look aqua. So cerulean and lemon yellow is a very bright color. So I'm keeping a little bit of cobalt blue in there. But the consistency is very watery. So I'm going to start painting like this. A few brush strokes on the top, but mostly horizontal strokes. And I'm going to make almost like an oval shape around the boat. The texture that we have on water will be of ripples. And these ripples, as you would know, thanks to perspective, will appear further apart, closer in the foreground and much closer in the background. So the further behind you are, the ripples are closer together. I'm carefully going right next to the boat, but the colors over here are so light that it really won't matter, even if there's an overlap. But now as I come to the foreground, I'm going to change this. I'm going to make a few lines like this. Adding a little more green. And deliberately, I'm going to leave a few patches unpainted. And in a few key places, you can also make a serpentine line like this. Now, a lot of times in water, or to paint water, we take advantage of wet on wet. So the same color or a different color with a slightly thicker consistency. If you have just a little bit of humidity on your paper, you can consider adding some of these shades like this. So you just get some soft shapes which are slightly darker. The reflection that we're going to make is going to be fairly dark and has sharp edges. But there will be a few soft edges, like somewhere here maybe, just a little light shade. So this adds more dimension to the water, makes it look more convincing. And we can work with creating more layered shadows. The thing with layers or in watercolor is that they will intensify the shade as you keep layering. But if you keep them light, even that light color will somewhere show through. It may not show as a color as much as just as a tone. Now the yellow part over here has dried up, but I would like to add some green over here. So here your slightly wobbly lines will actually come in handy. Just keep them horizontal. Now I'm adding yellow. This is gamboge. And I'm not making it too dense. So here, just be careful that you don't leave too many blank spots. Because those suddenly then, after your boat has been painted, they just stand out as if spoiled children. Why hasn't anyone painted me? So you don't want that. And then in some places where you are going to have a dark color, you can go over certain detailed sections in an effort to complete a texture or to create more lines. And then we will cover it up. So all the watery textures that you get in this process are all absolutely invaluable. There will be some places which will have a cloud, some places you will have flat color, some places it will be undulating. All those are vital when you're drawing water. Now, when painting the large part of the boat, it's a few things you may find easily. A few things are a little difficult, but you have to look for. There's a very subtle shadow towards the extremities and a little light shining, maybe reflecting off the water on the boat. So for the moment, we are going to ignore that light reflecting because it just gets very complicated. But we are going to make a combination of light red and orange as the color of the boat. And to that, we are going to add a little bit of burnt umber. So I want you to just see this. See how I'm painting this. I suspect that your colors will still be drying, so there's no rush to paint them. I'm just dipping my brush in light red and then orange, and I'm then taking this color and beginning to paint from the center towards the left of the boat. Remember to load the brush before it goes completely dry. This will ensure that the point where at the edge you need a slightly wet color, that entire row is going to be wet. I don't want this to dry halfway. Now I'm going to switch to just light red over here. I'm going to match the consistency and I'm going to pull the color slightly towards the left. And if it helps, turn the book sideways. And over here, just dip that same brush into burnt umber, match the consistency, and then pull that color down. That matching the consistency is very important. Don't make it too watery. And if you're not sure whether or not you're matching the consistency, make a sample color patch somewhere. You can just make it next to this. And this is how you will get your shade. So we go from orange plus light red to light red to burnt umber. Now do the same thing in the center and on the other side. And the colors on both sides of the boats, both sides of the boat could look different. They don't have to look identical. So on one side, maybe the light red looks a little more pronounced than the other. That's fine. The fact that there are two curves over there will make it not matter that you've got two different shades or two different vignettes or color changes going from the center outward. This color change is so subtle in the reference image that you might just miss it. And then our boats will look right and proper, straight, flat boats, which we don't want.
Aditi, do you wash your brush before taking the burnt umber or?
No, I don't. Not for this.
Okay.
Because these colors are contiguous, I will not wash the brush. Now again, we need to wait till this dries. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll be right back. Now, when you're painting this, if there are a few patches, don't correct them. Let the patches be. Now, while this patch is drying, I'm going to create some shadows and dimensions on the inside of the boat. So a little yellow ochre added to the gamboge to create a shadow coming from the extreme back towards the front, but don't make it flat. So you make it flat to in the back itself, that's fine. A little over here, that's fine. And towards the bottom of this, the front, that's fine. And then this part, just wipe the brush and extend this forward. Just so that it's not, it lightens from the edge right up to here. Completely forgot the right hand side. So when you make shadows like these on the corner, if you make them flat, it's a wasted opportunity. When you make them like this, there's a dark corner on the extreme, in the extreme back. And then as it comes to the front, the shadow becomes a little less intense. It will automatically give you depth. So wherever possible, if you can organize for some extra depth, please do it. Now after this, a nice dark patch using burnt umber and maybe some remnants of black. For this part. Now we have to visualize maybe a section of the boat which is like a box. You can even draw the box-like shape if you want. Now I have removed that terrible looking structure in the center. So I'm getting a very long line here. But you may not get that if you've drawn that central structure. So go with what you have drawn. Now here again, you'll see that though the color we see in the photograph is really dark, I'm making it a slightly grayish brown shade. Because again, I want to be able to make it at least a 2 or 3 tone black. So this is what I will do. I will first mark that. So now this looks like it's a negative space behind something solid. And then I will take a little bit of black and I'm going to add it only in the corners and in the under section here. So that little bit of discretion where to apply color will make our boat look more three-dimensional. There are such few items over here, so you want to make the illusion as believable as possible. Now moving on to the barrel. The barrel is fairly straightforward. Just paint the intended colors. In some places, you can, so yeah, okay, this is what we can do. You can paint from two sides and in the center, leave the part, either center, right or left, not exact center. Leave this blank and with a damp brush, just run the brush across. So you create a very light highlight, very subtle light highlight. Oops. Then there's a gap and then there's, I think cerulean blue should look very good here. If you think it's too bright, mix it up a little bit with cobalt blue and do the same process again, making sure that just the edges of your line tilt upwards slightly. Now, if this is too much for you, just paint it one color and be done with it. I don't know what color the top is, but I'm painting red. With a little gap for the handle, for the edge. Okay, now I don't know if you can see this. While I've made this central line, a little dark patch has come over here and it's looking a little odd. It's gone into a space of the left side of the boat that I don't want it to go. So I'm going to do a little correction over here. By spreading that paint out a little bit, only in that section. But I will enhance it further by making a shadow along the right. So till the very end, the shadows that we're going to make will largely be made in burnt umber for the reds and yellows, and blues like ultramarine blue or cobalt blue for the blue shades. Here also the shape has gone a little awry, so I'm going to change that. There I'm using a burnt sienna. And I'm going to correct that shape of the yellow color. And I'm going to leave a little bit of a highlight on the left like this, just with brush strokes. See, I'm not painting this edge, I'm just leaving it like a highlight like this. Now to darken this a little bit, because it's looking almost the same color as the boat. After this color is done, take a call whether you need to do this. I'm not going to put the same color throughout to darken it. I'm going to use this opportunity to first make a deep color underneath this part, the edge of the boat on top, maybe a little bit thicker, and also somewhere in the middle over here where I suspect a larger shadow must fall. So this way again, I create a little bit of interest, supporting the shadows a little bit, making it more fun. Now, while these are drying, I'm going to paint the water. So make sure you have a clean brush, because you don't want any of the reds to come into the water this time. Make the same blue-green color using cerulean blue, a little bit of cobalt blue, and lemon yellow. This time, the intensity of the color would be slightly higher than before. Now we drawn two lines here. We've drawn one narrow section first, and then we drew a line around it. So if you can still see that line around, you can make a patch of this blue in that section. Now what you need to remember is that you don't need to, at least this section, you don't need to fill up. Just towards the outside. In the center you can fill up because it's very dense. You can leave a little from the base of the boat. And keep looking at the reference image. So you'll see that in some places the lines are rounded, in other places they are angular, more manipulated strokes. As you come closer, you can also add that color in between some of the previous colors that we've drawn. This often happens that with water, even though you see reflections in the back and the color of the water is very light, as you come closer, you see what's underneath the water. The light changes, so you tend to see a lot more of the water in the foreground. And now we can deepen this color using cobalt blue, viridian green, and maybe might even need a little bit of black afterwards. Here now we will paint or leave a little gap just underneath the boat, like this. Don't paint the whole edge. And with the same kind of strokes, but make a sharp edge, especially in the foreground. So in some places, right in the center of this, of these reflections, if you leave a few gaps of color, that'll look much nicer. And as you start approaching the front, you can deepen the color by adding more black. And also make it a lot denser, so it doesn't become too transparent. Just make all your strokes and application of all the color in sideways strokes. And do not stop to think about whether or not, or whether you're doing it right until you have finished. And then a few stray strokes like these would look nice. Okay, I'm going to wait another 5 minutes because I need this to dry before anything else is done.
See, I think mine's become very dark.
Acha, okay, let me have a look. I'll just pin it and look closer. No, it's fine, but just the transition needs to be a little less sharp. So wait till this dries and then make a few more strokes with the deeper color going towards the boat side. See, this is how I'm doing it. But I'm not making just a single simple line. I will make it a shape like that. Okay, now still the front of the boat is looking rather flat. So now here we can add some colors and patches. First is we need to add this patch at the bottom. And that too will have the same kind of color changes. I'm going to mix light red with burnt umber. And just holding it upright to make sure that I'm making it correctly. As it comes towards the back, I am going to add a little bit of black to it, because then it's like you are getting these two colors to tell the same story. Here too is the same. So when I mix light red with burnt umber, the burnt umber gets a slightly reddish undertone. And that looks very nice for the light red, for both colors in fact. Here it's still light, so I can always take a little bit of burnt umber and orange and sweep this. Now I want you to just see this. If you're not comfortable with it, don't make it like that. I'm just going to sweep a color along the top like that. It's a very subtle color. But not overdoing. Similar such shade or shape can be made on the right. But you have to be very careful to not dislodge the previous color. So not very watery. A little bit of black over here as well. So beyond this point now, it's just about adding more and more layers for depth. Now here I've got a very nice color mix, so I don't want to mess with that, but I still want to add some depth. So I'm just going to make a few more waves in the central section. That section can always become really dark. And this will add a nice contrast to the picture. So at any point you want to add more tones or colors to something like this, a shadow of the water, shadow in the water. Don't paint the whole thing, just add it in waves, literally, because then it looks natural. So if I were to even take a full black color here, I'm just going to add it like waves. On the places where the color is not visible or not does not deposit, but still continue to create the same illusion. I'm going to wait another 5 minutes and then I'll add more depth. There are a few things over here. I don't know what they're called. I suppose they are so that you can tie boats or buoys to. You have to make those. And then we can also make these lines in color pencil or white pen, gel pen or something. How is it looking so far? Are you happy with it?
Aditi, how do we paint one of those scenes at a dock where there's multiple boats with sails? So all you can see is just strings and lines and fabric, right? So how do you do that?
Could you quickly look for a picture, Amulya? Then I can just describe it and show you, at least verbally, how I think we can plan it. Okay, now this fun bit is writing on the boat. I would I would say work cautiously, because we have to write on a surface that should look like it is curved. And you can write in pencil first and then in pen or paint. Whatever you do, please practice first and practice painting on a painted section. Because if you get the consistency wrong, for sure your lettering is going to spread. What does it say? A-E-A-N something O-I. Oh God, what is this? I just need to see the text, so magnifying it in another software. Oh, okay, never mind. Thing, see, A-E-A-N. I think it looks like an S-P-O-E, but the E is very Greek looking E. Okay, here there's too much of a patchy look on the left, and I'm not very happy with that. So I'm taking a coat of burnt umber, and I'm not at the edge, but just a little inside. I'm going to make a deep line. All right, so now comes the naming of the boat. All right, I'm going to first write over here and see how it looks. And once I'm comfortable, then I'll write over there. This is still wet, so I'm using a cloth. I have made a baseline, and on that I am going to, I'm writing the letters. Now I can use a white pen to draw the line. Just 1 second. All right. Now the white pen, the Sino pen. Generally, this works very well for creating white patches in watercolor. But as long as you don't do large patches. So we have this line, a rope coming down. Make sure that everything is dry. And then one nice stroke, you can draw the line. And you can also, once this line is drawn, then if you want, you can thicken it. And then in some places, you can also add a little bit of this white in the water. And if you really want to show some shine, you can also add like a white over here and show a shine like that. That should be enough. I've made those black whatever knobs. I'm sure they have a very cute name. I made them in a blue-black color, but I'm adding an extra black for depth just towards the bottom. And that should be it. Now the picture that I've shared is not really high resolution. So if you want to make a picture that, or painting that you want to put up, then it's best to look for a nice high resolution image or an image that you can get a lot of detail in. For some reason my boat looks like it's floating above water. So I'm going to add a little dark shadow towards the edges also. Same thing. Same color. Okay. Any questions?
Aditya, I sent those images on the group.
Ah, okay, let me see. Oh, nice. Let me have a look.
Aditi,
Yeah.
have a look, very dark.
1 second. Let me just change the. Elaine, could you send me a picture on the group? Because I think your image is looking a little garbled. Could be
Yeah.
bandwidth issue.
Aditi, can you post the picture of your final image, please?
Yes, I'll do that. Okay, so here are pictures that Amulya has sent. This is often a very typical scene most painters love to make. So here you have multiple boats, a lot of masts, ropes and such. So in this case, there's what you distill this information as is textures. You have the sky, that's one texture. Along with the clouds. Then you have the boats, which is a lot of lines, a lot of color, shadow, all of that. It's just a huge mess of lines. And the focal point over here is all the varied masts and the sail lines. So that then you have the water and the reflection of the boats in the water. So if you want to make a fine painting of all of this, break this down into just color patches. So you have a color patch for the mountains. Color patches are a wash for the water. You can see a deeper color, then lighter color as a reflection of the sky. Then again, deeper color for the water, along with still deeper shades for waves or a few ripples in the water. Very often when you're painting this, you can also paint in a reflection, because here the reflection of the boats is not seen as the color of the boats themselves. It's a deeper dark blue color. Then the boats mainly are just a jumble of yellows, yellow ochre, some browns, mostly grays, and a lot of texture in blue. So let me see if we can increase. So there are lots of lines and mostly white lines, and these lines can be made in a white pen. So if you were to make a sweep of, like you have a patch of, light red or burnt sienna here. Then you have a patch of cerulean blue mixed with maybe lemon yellow over here. Then you have a blue, white, green in this patch, this entire patch. So just as a patch, you will make it like this over here. Extend another slightly yellowish patch over here. Then another patch over here. Things like that. So think in just plain color patches. And once that is done, over here also, what is the base color you see? It's just lots of grays and a deep yellow ochre. Once that is done, then you can go on and make the details. So you will make the windows, a few windows here, and mostly just lines to indicate all of these things. And then focus on making these masts. So look at it as a combination of flat patches, on top of that other colored patches, and on top of that detailed lines, sometimes with pen, sometimes with paint. You could also add in color pencils if you want to, because in some places you get a nice texture with color pencils. Even that is fine. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, Aditi.
Okay. All right, so I guess that's it for today. I've been asking people to send in their artwork, something that you're pleased with, and a little bit of a testimonial. So when I'm traveling next week, I want to compile all of that together and put it on Instagram over time. So something that we've done in class that you've really enjoyed, and what you've learned from that, if you could just put a little bit of that, I'd like to put it on Instagram, if that's okay with you. And also send me your Instagram handle so I can tag you all in that. Okay.
Aditi, I've put my boat on to this thing. We
Okay.
do it again, but yeah, it's a
Let
little
me see.
dark. Washes are dreadful. Again, I got patchy things, so I did them on top. I mean, I did a very light swirl on top of it, sweep, as you said, which kind of bettered the thing. But it's crooked.
So in this case now, Elaine, see what's
Yes.
happened over here is here a few things that you
Yeah.
could change. So see over here, your boat is looking unfinished
Yeah.
because the right side looks amputated.
Which side? Sorry.
This side.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if this is the case, I mean, if you've
Yeah.
got this part of the boat coming
Yeah.
up here, say if this is what is happening. If it had been
Yeah.
so low, then it
Ah.
wouldn't matter. But because it's gone so high, you need to
Yeah. So it
what is
needs a
happening
back.
on the right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got
The
it.
colors are dark, but I'm quite happy with how you've got this part here. The deep shadows over here are very nice. The roundness of the boat over here is very nice. Now this is a deep color, so it's perfectly okay. What you could probably have done is the quantity of light red that you took in the first wash
Yeah.
with orange, that could
Yeah.
have been reduced. But then even my boat has become darker than I'd expected. That light red has been a very difficult color. Other
Yeah.
than that, I think it's fine. Your watercolor is also fine. It's only the deep color of that part of the boat
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
is making everything look a little too dark.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
And as you said, that back of it, which I need to complete, which I will put in, so that
Yeah.
then looks so weird.
but
Okay.
I'm going to request you to not test your colors very close to your artwork, because they also become part of the composition. So the eye will be drawn to that, and whatever color you see in that, there's something called recall. There's like a cyclic recall in all kinds of visual images. And sometimes you intend it, so you will put colors that help the eye to go from one side to the other. Like if you are seeing me on a frame, if there is another color that if I'm wearing this color and there's another patch of the same color, it helps to keep my eye within the frame longer, because my eye will move from this color to that and keep doing like that. So in your case, when you try out a color too close, and especially in large patches, not well organized, if it is well organized, then that loop tends to look attractive enough. But if it's just washes, if it's just, then I would recommend do it a little further away. Keep more distance between your picture. And like in my case, I'm doing it all the way over here. So if I were to, I can come even till here. So it does not interfere with the immediate space around. And for all you know, that too can cloud your judgment a little bit. Okay. Is that all?
Yes,
any
thank you.
Okay. All right. So I guess I shall see you in 2 weeks then. And
Friday we don't have class, right, for calligraphy?
we do Friday we'll have class. This Friday we
Yeah.
not
Oh.
next Friday. Next Friday I'm having no classes
Okay.
because I'm traveling.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.